entire team has put together the efforts to ensure that this is a success today. Thank you for your patience with the technical challenges as well, and welcome also to our streaming audience. It is being streamed on YouTube and I believe also on the Facebook page of the Chamber of Commerce. As we begin, I'd like to acknowledge, of course, the Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunications, Honorable Grisha Maarten, also the Deputy Prime Minister of St. Martin. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you also to the Minister of Finance, Honorable Marenka Gums. Thank you so much for being here. To all of those leaders in the banking sector, leaders in tech and fintech, the Central Bank, of course, thank you so much for being here. Fintech Association, thank you so much for being here. Our keynote speaker all the way from Trinidad, Mark Pereira, thank you so much for being here. And of course, heads of banks, and I also see SEDC. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you. SEDC is the St. Martin Entrepreneurship Development Center. And of course, our entrepreneurs, some of my favorites. Thank you so much for being here as well. Today is going to be a dynamic day. You're going to hear from entrepreneurs, but we also are here to gather information. One of the reasons why we wanted to do this is we wanted to break the silos of the conversation. Typically, we're pointing fingers. The reason why I get this question all the time, why I can't get paid online? I don't know how to say that in a professional way because that's exactly how my entrepreneurs speak to me. And so someone would say it's the central bank, the other one would say no, it's the bank, the other one would say no, it's fintech organizations, the other one would say it's this and it's that. And so how better to address this issue by having as many key stakeholders in the room having a conversation about this. So that's what we're going to do today. A little bit about what's going to happen today. There's going to be, of course, the videos that you're going to hear from our entrepreneurs, and also we're going to have Mentimeter questions. They're going to pop up on the screen. We'll be gathering information because also a deliverable from this is that we want to have a white paper that we can publish and let the public know, and especially our SMEs that account for over 89% of our GDP comes from the small, medium enterprise market. So we need to inform them and equip them because they need to thrive in a digital age. Without any further ado, I'd like to invite the president of the St. Martin Chamber of Commerce and Industry, none other than Ms. Peggy Ann Brandon, to welcome you. Please give her a big round of applause as she makes her way to the stage.
Good morning. Before I do anything, can I get a better applause? That's all. Protocol having been established, I first and foremost would like you to applaud for yourself. The fact that you're here today is crucial for St. Martin. So I am going to start that applause for you. And the reason for that being is that in life, every solution to a problem starts with coming together, putting minds together, and getting the work done. The St. Martin Chamber of Commerce is a registry, but we're much more than that. We are here for our members to work on every facet that could make this economy grow, that could provide an environment for our businesses, for our entrepreneurs, in which they can thrive, but also in which they can reach beyond our borders. The topic at hand today addresses just that. Allowing commerce out of St. Martin to be borderless. That's how I call it. It allows small businesses to have that potential that they should have. And without you here today, none of that is possible. So for us as a chamber, being able here to host you today comes from a very simple concept. One board member comes in and brings an issue to the floor. That issue is then shared among the 9 members. And yes, it took us a while, the remaining members, to understand fully where the problem lay. So today we will be enlightened on the problem, how it hinders our economic development, and how we are going to start the journey on addressing it. I thought a small welcome word would be the best, so I put a little something in your folders to deal with the topic at hand. For the rest, I'm going to leave it to the experts who are going to freely share their knowledge in a very Caribbean way, I hope, to get us through the day. But from us, I want to thank Ms. Badajo. That's where an idea was born. Ms. Carty, who understood as a small business owner exactly what she was talking about. Then I want to thank the entire board of COCI for understanding the importance of this event, taking the decision that we were going to do it and we were going to support them 100%. I want to thank the staff of COCI because without them, that would not have been possible. And I also want to thank the great people who have done the decorations, the setup, the technical setup. I don't want to call no names and leave nobody out, but each and every one of you, the entire team, the beautiful ladies who have welcomed us, prepared your packages, who will take care of your every need throughout the day. I thank each and every one of you because you have made it possible for us to be here today to deal with an important issue that's going to represent a pivotal moment in a change in our economy, in our economic growth, in our economy's progress, you name it. To the panelists, thank you so much for graciously accepting our invitation to be here today and share your knowledge, to be open, openly engaged, and to interact with the 2 beautiful ministers that we have here today, both women. I can't say, sorry gentlemen, the banking industry may have a lot of men, but it's still women power here. We have ministers here today representing the crucial ministries as it relates to finance and economic development for our country. So this is our time to interact, to liaison directly with government and bring our message across, how crucial it is for all of us to be here today and work together. I have said enough. I'm thirsty already. I can imagine you heard me enough. Thank you. Thank you for being here, and have a great, great event.
We'd like your attention for the video, please.
Welcome to St. Maarten, where entrepreneurs are building their dreams. Meet Sandra, a passionate pepper sauce maker, ready to take her business to the world. Starting small, Sandra quickly gained local fans and decided to incorporate her business, taking her first step towards growth. She registered her NV at the Chamber of Commerce and obtained a business license, investing over 1,750 guilders to legitimize her dream. But the real challenges were just beginning. Sandra opened an online store excited to sell globally, but her excitement turned into frustration. Shopify payments, PayPal, and other payment processor options are not supported to receive payments in St. Maarten. A tourist wanted to buy her 60 guilder assorted pepper sauce package, but now the only payment option is an international wire transfer. This meant losing nearly 67% in fees, as the bank charged a 40 guilder flat fee for international wires. The sale never happened. Sandra decided to seek all the help she could find. A friend told her to explore the payment options that her local bank offered. She learned she could open a merchant account and use a Caribbean payment gateway service. Her hopes soared, but the costs were overwhelming. To start, she had to deposit 25 to 50% of her estimated annual sales as a security hold. Then came a 36 guilder monthly fee and a 90-cent per transaction fee from her local bank. The Caribbean Gateway added a 350 guilder setup fee, a 142 guilder plugin that she would need to renew yearly, and a 27 guilder monthly fee. There was then a 63-cent per transaction fee and even a 0.25% commission on all processed payments. This meant that for every 60 guilder sale, Sandra lost about 10% of her revenue in transaction fees before taxes. On top of this, she faced steep fixed costs of about 100 guilders a month just to keep the system running. With such barriers, building a sustainable business seemed impossible for Sandra. Now imagine the future. Sandra is now selling her pepper sauce all over the island and all over the world. Her transaction fees have dropped to 3.5%, aligning with the global standards, and she no longer pays subscription fees for her payment services. With increased profits, Sandra has reinvested in her business, hired employees, given herself a salary, and is now able to provide for her family. Let's empower entrepreneurs like Sandra. Together, we can unlock global payments and unlock St. Maarten's full potential.
So I'm very excited about the further discussion. We wanted to lay a good foundation. In case you were confused why we were here, that's why we're here. Without any further ado, I would like to invite the Minister of Finance to officially open this event. Please give a round of applause for the Honorable Marinka Gums.
Dr. Ife Badajo, my colleague, Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunication, Mrs. Grisha Heiliger-Maarten, distinguished panelists, honorable members of the Board of Directors of the St. Maarten Chamber of Commerce and Industry, residents of our beloved island, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and blessed day. It is an honor and a privilege for me to address you here today at this important panel discussion aimed at seeking solutions to what seems to be an intractable problem for us on St. Maarten. The challenges we have all been facing with regards to digital payments. I am confident that this esteemed panel will walk us through the issues we have been experiencing in this regard and come up with enlightened answers that will serve us all well. We live in an interconnected world, which technology has shrunken to the point where businesses access global markets in a way we could have never imagined before. In fact, the difference between big and small businesses is now more qualitative than quantitative. And that quality is determined by one's access, or shall I say, presence in the global marketplace. Being present in this progressively digitalized global economy means not only being able to offer your goods and services online, but also, just as important, being able to make payments online. Here is where we see the intersection between commerce and finance, which underscores the interdependence of our world today. And just as the lines between small and big businesses are being blurred, so are the divisions between small and big states. Of course, there are giants and there are midgets in terms of volume and size of national economies. But I submit to you today that there are multinational, or should I say transnational companies whose revenues dwarf those of some of what could be considered mid-sized national economies. Indeed, size is a relative term. Compared to Holland, we may be seen as small. However, compared to India, Holland itself would also be considered small. For me, however, you are as small as you think and believe you are. This brings me back to the point of our discussion here today. We are here to explore how we can integrate St. Maarten into the global marketplace and find the key or keys that would unlock the portals of digital payments so that we can harness the full potential of what they offer for the betterment of our businesses, our communities, and our island. Since I became Minister of Finance, and even in my previous position at the Postal Service, I have been asked numerous times, why is it that we cannot use PayPal on St. Maarten? Why is it that we cannot even find St. Maarten on the list of countries you pull down when you conduct an online transaction, whereas you can find Anguilla? I am glad that the head of digital payments at the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Maarten, Mr. Maduro, is on this panel, and I would very respectfully pass on those questions to him. This is because between us, I have posed those same questions to the central bank, and I am told that the matter is being dealt with. On the other hand, the issue of St. Maarten not being on the menu of countries you can pull down on the online is a different kettle of fish that has my undivided attention. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in an age in which digitalization is a key component of our economy. Our government surely recognizes the pivotal role that financial innovation plays in this regard. We are committed to fostering a conducive environment where businesses can flourish, where entrepreneurs can turn their visions into reality, and where our financial institutions can lead the charge in adopting cutting-edge technologies. In fact, we are developing a digital policy and program that would allow everyone to partake in the fruits of technology. I can assure you that our government is considering policies that will promote transparency, efficiency, and resilience in our financial systems. We are already collaborating with our Kingdom partners to harmonize regulatory frameworks, thereby ensuring that our businesses can navigate global markets with confidence and ease. And despite our budgetary constraints, we are also investing in infrastructure that supports digital transactions, cybersecurity, and financial literacy. Yet, those efforts alone will not be enough. The private sector, you, the trailblazers of commerce and industry, are the engines that drive economic growth and innovation. Your creativity, your resilience, and your entrepreneurial spirit are what propel us forward. It is through public-private partnerships, collaboration, and a shared vision that can unlock the full potential of global markets and payments. As we embark on this journey together, let us focus on the future. That future which is already upon us, whether in the form of cryptocurrencies or artificial intelligence. It is a future we cannot hide or run away from. Let us therefore be bold in our ambitions, innovative in our approaches, and steadfast in our commitment to creating that future where economic opportunity knows no borders. Together, we can participate in building a global marketplace that is not only accessible, but also equitable and sustainable. In conclusion, may I seize the opportunity to extend my deepest gratitude to the Chamber of Commerce and Industry for organizing this vital conference. Your dedication to fostering dialogue and collaboration is commendable, and your efforts are instrumental in shaping the future of our economy. I'd also like to applaud the efforts of Dr. Ife Badijo, who is a tireless and fearless Amazon, fighting to elevate the profile of entrepreneurship on our islands while promoting financial literacy among our people. Thank you, Ife. I wish you all a very fruitful and inspiring discussion, and I can't wait for the solutions that will come out of your deliberations. I thank you.
Thank you so much. I spent about 45 minutes doing this phase so that it could last 18 minutes, 18 hours. In about 2 minutes, I just felt something coming right here, like, no, you don't, no, you don't. Thank you so much, Honorable Marenka Gomez, Minister of Finance. Please give her a warm welcome. She has to depart. Today is filled with different activities that she has committed to, but she will be there later at the cocktail hour. Thank you so much. We have a quick, I would like to, oh, excuse me. And entering in right now is the Prime Minister of St. Maarten, Honorable Dr. Luc Marcelina. Followed by the newly installed Minister of Justice, Honorable Natalie Tackling. And I also see the Secretary General of the Council of Ministers, Cassandra Janssen. Thank you so much for being here. And some other entrepreneurs, Melanie Schwazi, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate that the government is this committed that 4 ministers out of the 7 have visited or are here today. So thank you so much. That shows the commitment to solving this problem, and we really appreciate it. Without any further ado, if you would do me the favor and just scan this QR code, it will take you to a Mentimeter question. And if you can just answer the first question that you see in the Mentimeter. All day today, you would see QR codes and questions coming up because this is a way to capture information. And if we're going to talk about digital inclusion, this is part of it as well. So thank you so much for doing so. I'd like for you to hear from our entrepreneurs. We did some pre-recording, and so we would show you what they have to say and give you their experiences. Can you please also give a warm round of applause for the tech team that's doing overtime work this morning? In true fashion, technology is either your friend or your frenemy. And so this morning was a little bit more of a frenemy than a friend. So we are making sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible. Okay. What I would do then, since I see that there are some things that need to be addressed in the back, I would then ask for, actually, if I can get your attention, media team, for a quick second. Like, how much time you need? 2 minutes? 1 minute? 30 seconds? 1 minute, okay, 1 minute. So I'll go ahead and share. Thank you so much also for the Minister of Education, Youth, Culture, and Sports, the Honorable Melissa Gums, for being here. She's a futurist and innovator herself, so thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your presence. I'm going to share with you a bit of my own personal experience. In 2020, I launched the bigger version of Islandpreneur. We were working on Islandpreneur for 2 years, and so we all know what happened in 2020, right? Okay, so if you're like me, I have pandemic brain. There's not much that I remember in 2029 at the end of it. 2020, everything kind of shifted. Y'all smiling because y'all don't remember much in 2019 either. And so in 2020, when this all happened, I said, okay, I'm gonna go online and I'm gonna do the event live, right? And so I was very excited to monetize because David and I had spoken, and he said, Ife, you're gonna be one of the first in St. Maarten. I'd like to be the first. I'm the firstborn of my mom, so the first is always very special to me. And so I said, okay, I'm going to be one of the first to have online payments in St. Maarten. I'm going to prove a point because I've been talking about this for some time. And what happened was I wanted to do so and could not do so. Went ahead, spoke to him. I was dealing with a particular bank at the time. And the bank at the time asked me for 50% of estimated annual sales. Now let me sink that in. If I thought I could make $50,000, that meant that I had to put a deposit of $25,000. Now, as a small business, where on earth am I going to find $25,000 as a deposit that's going to be reserved? That can cripple and crush you in 2 seconds. So after that, and before that, I've been very vocal, but after that, I got very, very vocal, particularly at the Chamber of Commerce. I even forwarded my email, my dissertation email, to my colleague Jennifer, because I'm like, can you believe this is what's happening in St. Maarten? A few years later, we have different options. I see different opportunities, but there's still a long way to go. So if the media team is ready, we will showcase some of our entrepreneurs at this time. Nod if that's a yes. Yes? Okay, thank you.
Many people from different parts of the world. Business can expand St. Maarten because of its unique location. Can help, it can be you. My name is also Lawrence. I'm a media specialist and activist, and currently part owner in Great Big Media, which produces news. And a limitation, and what happens is Maarten is already a hub where so much other countries look into. Of course, they look into for business as well. And what that does, what that limitation does to us, we have to find different ways now to make money and to be part of that regional and international industry. Because we can't do that very easy in St. Maarten. We have to find tools that does not help St. Maarten partners. Definitely all of our businesses can grow. As I said already, St. Maarten will help people look here. Definitely in the region and internationally, reach so many people from different parts of the world. Business can expand St. Maarten because of its unique location. Can help, it can be unique to our own industries on the international market. But as long as we are cut off and then still in like this, I think we have some quite different. My hope is that we all can come up on the island and be recognized digitally. Can be part of payment system with payment platforms that is all around the world easily. I'm supposed to be able to think of any one of those apps and be able to just transform it across the world like everybody else is. So that's just my hope, that we get it as soon as possible so that we can become part of the world, become part of the world back in that.
Tamara, and I am the founder of Be Your Own Brand. Be Your Own Brand is a consulting agency that focuses on marketing and branding. Under that umbrella, so to call it, we have influence marketing services. That's how Career Creative Style was born. At a certain point, I decided, hey, I think it's time to start monetizing the blog. However, being in this side of the world, I know that was going to be a challenge. Getting information from different entrepreneurs that were also in the digital space and were trying to get paid, and they would say, hey, Canty, I tried X, I tried this, I tried that. Absolutely. I think we would have been so much further. And not only me, other entrepreneurs as well that are in the digital space and the creative content arena would have been able or would be able to benefit from cross-border, payment processing and options that, the rest of the world has. But we, for some reason, have to find so many loopholes to be able to get access to them. And is it frustrating? Absolutely. Do you want to give up many times? Absolutely. Is it demotivating? Yes, right? Because you can see you have all of these ideas and you have all of these strategies, and you put a plan together for the year and you say, this is where I want to grow my business by 20%. But if you make it to 10, that 10 is usually used locally because the other 10 you can't reach the world, right? So you don't have enough access. People can get to you, but you can't get to people. And that makes it particularly challenging in a world where everyone pays digital. My hope for the industry is that we can really get access to payment portal. I think technology is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity and a right. So that is my greatest hope. Let's position ourselves, even if it's just with one. One, get it out there, get it done, so that our entrepreneurs and our future generation could see that there is growth, that we don't live in a cave in 1980.
That was Kenty Lichtenberg, who's also here today. She's assisting. So please give it up for our entrepreneurs. You're hearing directly from them. That was also done in-house. Quinel Ming, who's here, yes, from the Chamber of Commerce. So please give him a round of applause for putting it all together. As we move forward, I have the distinct pleasure to introduce to you a colleague, someone who has been in business some time, who has also started an online business. She's known mostly for her work with Altus as a branding agency. She's also a fellow board member on the St. Maarten Chamber of Commerce and Industry Board. She has Aroma Island, which is her really great scented candles. Like, no shame, but they're really, really good. And she has also worked very diligently to map out costs and things of that nature. So she's going to present to you what is happening currently in St. Maarten and where else we can go. So please give a warm welcome for Jennifer Carty.
Good morning, everyone. How is everyone doing? Protocol has already been established, and to be honest, I'm not very good at protocol most of the time, so I'm so happy that it was done for me. All right, so let's get started. I want to tell you a story, and I want to paint a picture of what is going on right now in St. Maarten, right? I just would love my little clicker to work, because without that, I am absolutely useless. Is it working? Is it working? No? Technology is great today. Wow, give it up for technology. How's everyone feeling? Okay, we're good. All right, so I'm an entrepreneur. I moved back to St. Maarten in 2013, went to college, did my due, came back, and I started my branding agency in 2013. In 2020, I was very bored in the pandemic, and I started another business, an e-commerce business. Yes, I'm very ambitious. And I need my clicker to, ooh, there we go. All right, let me see here. And I sell globally, but kind of, right? So with my business as a branding agency, I quickly outgrew the local market with the type of branding work that I offer, and I had to scale internationally. And then I figured out that it was impossible to get paid. And same thing with my e-commerce business. It's an e-commerce business. I need to get paid. And I had to find loopholes, so many, many loopholes. And when I joined the board of the Chamber of Commerce, I believe in 2019, we heard the cries of many other entrepreneurs. All of you guys in the room today, give it up for the entrepreneurs that are here. They took a time out of their businesses to be part of this conversation, because I know the pain point. I feel it myself, and I know what it is. So what I want to do is I want to start off my presentation with a really powerful quote from Mia Motley that she gave at the US conference when we were discussing the global financial systems. And basically she said, our economies cannot function on their own. We do not make enough clothes, we do not produce our own food, we do not produce our own equipment. Therefore, unless we're able to trade with the rest of the world, we're at the risk of becoming financial pariahs. And that one hit me very hard. So in this very short presentation, I would like to first highlight some of the challenges that small businesses face with the local options that we do have. Because there's good news, we do have some options. I also want to give a comparison of some of these payment options. I really want to show you, I want to break down the costs for you so you can see really how much it is costing an entrepreneur to make use of these options. Because a lot of people, they don't really see the figures in front of them on a daily basis. And I had my work cut out for me. I also want to, come on, technology. Okay, I want to showcase the untapped potential. So if we are able to access the global market, I want to showcase what that would look like for economic growth. And then I want to emphasize, this is not, yesterday it worked perfect. I want to emphasize the risk of inaction. So what will happen if we as a country decide to do absolutely nothing, right? Because entrepreneurs, we're fearless, we're resilient, we're going to find a way. What is that going to mean for country St. Maarten if we as a government or as financial institutions decide to do nothing? So in a perfect world, we can set up an online shop, we can open our laptop, set up a website, get an online shop, and we could just select one of the payment processor options that are available to us. You'll have Shopify payments, you'll have Stripe, you'll have PayPal. There's many others. Those are the popular ones that everyone knows, right? And then a customer will come along and they'll make a sale, they'll purchase something in your shop, and then within seconds, the funds are deposited into your local bank account. So it'll come into your Wave or your RBC bank account, and yeah, you have your money, you've completed your sale. However, and we can do that because in the perfect world, we can access the global financial system. But I have sad news for you guys, this isn't a perfect world. It's not our world, at least. But fret not, because there are options that we could utilize locally. There are options that every bank in St. Maarten, or almost every local bank in St. Maarten, does offer. But there's a small problem, and that problem is that there's some middlemen, right? And the middlemen need to get paid. And that is when we see a cost issue coming into play. So in a perfect world, and I was told that I have a little buzzer here. Let me see. No. So in a perfect world, what happens is you make a payment online, someone makes a payment, and the website that you're using, so the payment platform, will take a small percentage for facilitating that service, right? And then you get paid. But in our world, your local bank needs to get paid, your Caribbean gateway needs to get paid, and the point of sale that you're using is still providing a service, so they also need to get paid. And then you get paid, right? So, come on guys. There's also a few more problems, besides the very small problem that I just mentioned. That maybe isn't really a small problem. The first one is that a lot of small businesses on St. Maarten don't even know that these options exist. They do not know. They're not really heavily promoted. They have no idea how to go about finding this information. And additionally, most of them may not meet the requirements in order to utilize these options, right? They will not, they will not be able to get a merchant account, which I'll go into some more details. The setup can be a little intimidating and complex. I consider myself a quite, business and tech savvy person. And when you embark on this journey to speak to your local bank and get information, it can be intimidating. The forms that you get, the questions that you're asked, the requirements that you need to meet. It's very intimidating and it's complex, and it's not as simple as just putting in your bank account in a website and then boom, you can get a payment. So it does intimidate a lot of small businesses. You also need to talk to several people. You have to talk to your bank. You have to talk to your local payment gateway service. So it is a process. These options, as I mentioned, are too expensive because when the fees add up, it takes a big chunk of your final sale. And the options that the local banks may offer, so the payment gateways that they use, they may or may not be compatible with the processor with the website that you're using. Some websites will work seamlessly with one gateway and not with the other. So it really depends. And I've had, in my case, where I have some clients, they bank with a particular local bank, but the payment gateway that they offer doesn't work. So they've even had to consider moving banks just to be able to utilize that payment processor. So how do current local payment options work? There's a few steps, and I'm going to give an example. This is an actual example of a client of mine. So you have client X, and they want to sell tickets to a tourist attraction here on St. Maarten. It's really important for them to sell online because they sell to the North American market predominantly, and most of them like to plan their trip before they reach the island. And in his case, he was selling tickets for 80 guilders. I'm going to be using the guilder currency throughout this presentation because that is our national currency, okay? So if there's any questions. I'm a dollar girl, but all right. So they want to sell a ticket for 80 guilders, and then what they do is they set up their website, and they have a WordPress website, which, fun fact, about 70% of the world uses WordPress. And they wanted to use WooCommerce, and WooCommerce is basically the Shopify of WordPress. But they found out that, hey, you can't use WooCommerce. It's not supported in St. Maarten. So what you'll have to do is go to your local bank and find out how we can solve this problem. So step one, you call up your bank and you ask them to open a merchant account. A merchant account is basically an account where you are able to receive credit card payments, right? Your bank will obviously have to have a meeting with you, go through some forms. In some cases, you'll have to put a deposit. So there's some steps that you have to go through before you can open a merchant account. Then they'll give you a list of the options, and there are a lot. Some banks have maybe 6 options. So you'll go through the list and you will see which Caribbean gateway will fit best with your particular business. I just wanted to give a little screenshot of some of these names. Maybe they're familiar to you, but these are some of the available payment processors that are supported in St. Maarten. And then last but not least, the payment gateway that you selected then needs to integrate with the website or the platform that you're using through an API. An API is just, a technical word for laying a pipe, a cable, between your payment, your merchant account and your website. So let's take a look at the real-life example of Client X. Any minute now. Okay, so remember that client X is charging 80 guilders for a ticket, right? If the client X will go to the local bank A, we're not calling out any banks here today. Local bank A, the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to look at the merchant account requirements. In this particular case, they need to have a security deposit in order for you to proceed. They're looking for a 25% of your estimated annual sales. I do want to give a small disclaimer. Some of the calculations and the fees and the percentages and everything that I'm using in here is information that has been acquired over time. So some numbers may have changed, so nobody can come for me after this presentation. You cannot hold me to these numbers. It's purely to draw, to make an example, right? Because at one point this used to be 50%, and in recent times it dropped to 25%. So that's good news. All right, this local bank is charging a monthly fee of 36 guilders, a 90-cent transaction fee, and a 4% commission fee. And that 4% commission fee, I understand, entails all of the interbank charges, the exchange rate, all of those additional charges in order to, and then the bank also needs to make a percentage off of the service that they offer. Then you have your Caribbean Gateway, which has its own set of fees. In this particular case, you have a one-time setup fee of 315 guilders for them to set everything up for you. There's a 90-cent transaction fee. There's a WordPress integration, so for it to connect to your website, and that is a fee of 142 guilders per year, and that has to be renewed annually. And then there's a 0.25% commission. In this particular scenario, their website was not charging a processing fee. That is not always the case. Sometimes they will charge. So if we look at the breakdown and we say, okay, this client expects to sell 4,000 tickets, and they expect to make a revenue of 320,000 guilders. This is what he's projecting, right, for the year. So he's having this conversation with his bank, because his bank is like, how much are you going to sell? And he has to pull a number that he thinks is somewhat realistic. And he better be realistic, because if it's more than that, the bank will come knocking and be like, hey, you lied to me. This is higher. So, because they do a semi-annual review of your income, and then they will adjust accordingly. So the 25% of your annual revenue projections will come up to 80,000 guilders for client X. So this is upfront, hasn't made any money yet. This is just cash flow that is now basically being held as a deposit, right? And then we have the variable fees, so that's of the bank and the payment gateway service that we're using. And that comes up to 20,000 guilders, roughly. That's about 6.5% of your total revenue. And then last but not least, you have your fixed fees, because you have to calculate those as well. So all of the subscriptions that you're paying, monthly fees, and that comes up to roughly 0.28%. So essentially what we're looking at here is about 6.7% that is going in just to be able to process these fees. 6.7%. Now let's take a look at local bank B. I'm just going to give you two banks so you have an idea on, okay, what is the difference between the two. Now local bank B is not requiring a deposit, but you do have to have a meeting with a risk assessment, with a corporate officer to do risk assessment. I have no idea what that means, but that sounds a little intimidating to me, and I think to most small businesses that may be a little intimidating as well. So I'm not too sure exactly what happens in that meeting. This local bank is charging a flat fee of 4%. They are negotiable, but this is basically the starting out rate, and most of the cases with new businesses, they will typically raise the transaction fee. Then you have the Caribbean Payment Gateway, 450 guilder setup fee, 455 monthly fee, and if you're, let's say you're selling less than 1,000 transactions, you have standard a 324 monthly transaction fee that you have to pay, right? I don't think there's many small businesses that will surpass 1,000 transactions per month, so it's very likely that that fee they will have to pay every month, which is 324 guilders. And in this case, the website was charging a processing fee of 0.9% to use their point of sale system. So if we look at the overview, 4.9% is of the variable fees, 1.52% is of the fixed fees, and that brings us to 6.42%. So pretty much the same as local bank A. All right. I want to mention, by the way, that this is all still before turnover tax, the very aggressive turnover tax that taxes you on your gross revenue, not your profit, your gross revenue. So if you're looking at the 6.5% plus the 5% turnover tax, that's 10% of your income, of your revenue already just out the door, right? And that part always scares me, for especially entrepreneurs who are not very aware of what their profit margins are. Like if you don't have a good understanding of your profit margins, you may run the risk of really losing a lot of money if you don't really understand how to make up for that 10% that you're losing. And that really is my fear for a lot of businesses on St. Maarten. All right, now if we take a look at the global payment processing fee overview, generally, on average, the fee is about 3.5% flat. This differs. Shopify is 2.9, PayPal right now is 3.49. In other parts of the world, as I was corrected yesterday by Mr. David, it could be as high as 5. But let's just look at the average, which is about 3.5%, and there's no subscription fees to be able to use the service. So technically, hold on, I went back. So technically, 3.5% of the revenue would be going, and that's only 11,000, right? So it's a big difference from the previous local bank A and local bank B examples. So now you have this business owner, they're very frustrated. They're asking themselves a lot of questions. They're like, well, can the banks lower or remove the security deposit? Can there be a regulation on these fees from the banks? Like, what could be done? How can I access the global financial system? Can somebody teach me this? I'm frustrated. Are there any loopholes out there? And everyone kind of goes down this list and end up at loopholes. And that is when maybe some shady stuff starts to happen, because we got to get paid. So we're going to find a way, right? And we got to look out for that. So we talk about needing to diversify the economy. We're always talking about, oh, St. Maarten has one pillar of income, it's tourism. What can we do? What can we do to increase our GDP? And my answer always to that is, well, if we could tap into global markets, all of these professions here on the screen could basically start selling tomorrow. Tomorrow. We're not even talking about people who have physical products. I'm talking about architects, artists, content creators, data analysts, translators, voice artists, developers, marketing managers, tutors, copywriters. These are just digital services people could start selling tomorrow. They could sign up to Fiverr or Upwork and they could start selling their skill tomorrow. But we cannot access this. We cannot diversify our economy because of this roadblock. We're limiting the economic growth of our country by not being able to tap into other markets. Imagine if we could instantly grow our customer base by just 10%. 10. SMEs make up 85% of the economy in St. Maarten. And imagine if they could just add 10% of new customers to their revenue base. What would St. Maarten look like? So what are the risks if we do nothing? If we all walk out here today and we do not come up with any actionable points? There will be a lot more incorporation of foreign businesses. Everyone is incorporating US businesses. There are countless ads in St. Maarten. Sign up from the comfort of your home for a US LLC. You pay $400, you get a local bank, you get a US bank account. You get credit cards within seconds. You get capital from your bank in the US. And more entrepreneurs are doing this because they call me every day. I hear from so-and-so. I hear from so-and-so. They're not going to wait for our country. They're not going to wait for us to come up with a solution. They are the most resilient human beings on earth. What happens? We will lose turnover tax. We will lose profit tax. because we're moving into the digital era, and they're not going to be left behind. So we need to find ways to keep these businesses in St. Maarten. They want to pay taxes here. They don't want to file for the IRS every year. They don't want to do that. But they have to if they want to compete globally. And you know what? Mia Motley even made mention of this in her summit. She said, you know, with the corresponding banks, all this risk assessment, we got to make sure that there's no fraud going on in St. Maarten. But if there's no solutions, what are we promoting? Are we not promoting fraudulent activities? What people are doing is they're using the bank account of their sister in Holland, their aunt in the US. Is that not fraudulent activities and evading tax? So, to summarize, the access of global payments will allow us to diversify our economy. It will allow us to grow our economy and our offerings. And it will allow us to legitimize our businesses and improve compliance and improve tax compliance. So I hope today that we have a very, very fruitful discussion and that we can come up with some actionable points to together, not in silos, solve this problem in one way or the other. And I thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Jennifer. As you can tell, she's very passionate about the problem. But she asked some good questions. One of the questions is, if we don't allow for these solutions to take place, are we not then promoting fraudulent activity? Another question was, what can we do to increase GDP? And the immediate answer is unlock global payments. The minute we do that, that answers that. So I appreciate it. Please give her another round of applause. There's some people in the room that I know very well, and so when I see them start nodding their head like this, or they start to lean in like that, I'm like, okay, Jen, you got them. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Next, we have a newly found friend who feels like a longtime friend, Mr. Mark Pereira. We share the passion of empowering islandpreneurs. As a fintech entrepreneur, he's dedicated to driving digital transformation and financial inclusion in the Caribbean. He's the founder and CEO of Zed Labs, a leading software development agency, and the visionary behind WAM, a mobile money app empowering individuals and businesses, committed to nurturing local tech talent through initiatives like the MVP program and fostering innovation at the Works co-working space. He has a track record of spearheading tech-driven solutions. He's on a mission to create opportunities, build ecosystems, and lead the charge in shaping the future of finance in the Caribbean. Please give a warm welcome to none other than my good friend, Mark Pereira.
Morning, everyone. It is an absolute pleasure to be here today. And forgive me if I start saying we on the stage as if I'm one of you. I have been welcomed with such warmth on this island by members of the Chamber of Commerce that you all have really made me feel at home. I also have 5 generations deep family in Curacao. My great-great-great-great-great-grandfather is buried in the oldest Jewish cemetery in the island of Curacao, so the Antillean Gilder is something that I hold very dear to me, and I hope to see improved and innovated upon. And today, thank you so much. Today, I have a series of slides which I hope to be a North Star for the Caribbean, St. Maarten, to strive towards, as I think that this is where, if we want to diversify as the Caribbean, if we want to connect our economies, if we want to go arms in arms and really fight the globe, we have to do it together. but we have to be very strategic and we have to collaborate to get there. But we face some bottlenecks. We face a lot of hurdles in this that is stifling our entrepreneurs. There's a lot of major hurdles that prevent our individuals within this country to grow. And because of that, they're leaving and seeking opportunities outside. They'll go away to university, they'll learn so much, but then they will also learn that life here is a little easier, life here is a little more lucrative, and just end up staying away and not bringing those brains back to the island. So a large part of this conversation is how do you make things easier on the island for people to start coming back and saying, oh, wait a minute, I love my country, and it's a lot easier to contribute, as you know, as you have all made it easier to do so. So this is a story of currencies, which, as you all are very familiar with these currencies, soon not so familiar with that one, as I understand there's a new one in town. But the USD and the Euro, and I just want to break down, it's a simple concept, primary currencies versus secondary currencies. So primary currencies, the USD, Euro, the pound, Japanese yen, these currencies move across borders around the world seamlessly, easily. Transaction fees are very low. But there are currencies that sort of hang on to, benefit from, collateralized by, like the Antillean Guilder, also my currency in Trinidad and Tobago, that do not have this liquidity, as you call it, to move in between each other very seamlessly. And because of that, there's a lot of constraints that happen with it. And one of those major constraints, which I think is the last colonial oppression to really untie and undo, which is the problem of correspondent banks. So this is the macro problem to all of this. This is why, as Ms. Carty referred to, they have so much fees, is because the banks in the correspondent banks in the US and Europe tell the banks in St. Maarten what to do, who to bank, who they can take risks on, because without these relationships, this bank can't get access to US, this bank can't get access to euros. And the major problem is with that is these banks become fearful to meet the compliance and regulatory requirements from that is a major lifeline for these banks to offer outside payments, access to US, access to euros, and thus they don't take the necessary risk needed on the small local entrepreneurs to be able to get into the financial system and grow. And you see that risk being represented in fees, in lack of access. So this problem right here is financial exclusion, and this is the last colonial oppression to really get over. I am going to propose what I see is the solution, but really and truly, anecdotally, I am seeing this happen globally. There is a new technology. It's been around for a decade, a little over 2 decades now, blockchain technology. And this is the North Star. The reason why I say this is North Star, we can even just forget that I said blockchain for some people who are skeptical, is that within this platform, there's very low fees to transact. So I actually had the pleasure of sending Minister Grisha some stable coins, some cryptocurrencies yesterday. Sorry? Very little, just to let you all know. It was below all required threshold. But I think what was awesome about it is I, from Trinidad and Tobago, came into the island and onboarded the Minister of TIAT to this platform within minutes and sent her capital within minutes. And that was the equivalent of her signing up for a bank account while we sat at a table and me transacting with her in a currency that was issued as a stablecoin by the United States of America, regulated by the United States of America. There's also an equivalent currency issued by the same company for the euros. Why wasn't there a stablecoin for St. Martin, this new currency that you're coming out with, the Caribbean Guilder, needs to be on a global platform. It needs to be that innovative currency, that innovative asset that you all have that will put you on the global stage innovating. And that, I think, is the point that I really want to drive home, is that when you put this currency on the blockchain, it shows that you have confidence in an asset, it shows you have confidence in a technology, and it shows that you are global leaders in the fintech space, that you can put your currency up on the stage where only some of the major countries are now operating. And it's very doable. And just how doable it is, I am going to just provide the next steps to take to get there. Okay, so this is essentially a blueprint. Obviously, a lot of work has to, sorry, not a lot of work, but these are the next steps to get there. To start to put St. Martin at the forefront of financial innovation. Fintech sandboxes. This is actually a big one for me because, just a fun fact, a really awesome thing that happened for me earlier this week. I was in St. Martin. For 2 years, I've been applying for my electronic money issuance license, and we received it on Wednesday, and I was in St. Martin when I got the news. Tears, elation, a lot of emotion. Thank you so much. But something came over me, which was, it was a little bit of a tinge in my spirit, is that I didn't feel the zeal that I had. I didn't have that initial entrepreneurial spirit, because the idea that I had 2 years ago is the same idea that I just got the license for. And I wasn't able to prove and de-risk that startup and that product because I wasn't able to operate at all. And the major problem is for me is that I still have to go and implement this company, and I have to go and test all of my theories with all of that sunken cost over the last 2 years. And the reason why I say fintech sandboxes is this is before you implement the regulations for your EMIs and your virtual assets. This happens in tandem with private sector. So private-public partnerships means trusting private sector enough to help them shape the regulations so that entrepreneurs like myself don't get disillusioned and run out of steam. I can tell you there's times that I should have just quit for my mental sanity, but I did it for my country because I'm patriotic. I hope that your entrepreneurs won't have to do the same, to start to experiment and push the country forward, because at the end of the day, I am a diaspora Caribbean and I wanted to see my country move forward, and that is the reason why I did it. So this dichotomy between private sector and public sector, I think in smaller islands is a blurred line. Co-working spaces foster collaboration. Essentially what you want to do for the next aspect of this roadmap is start to provide enabling infrastructure for entrepreneurs to thrive and technologists to thrive. The reason being is because, when you want to entertain tourism, you will bolster up your airports, you'll bolster up your seaports for individuals to join into the country. That's your infrastructure that enables individuals to come into the country and that income to flow in as well. This is how you do the same for technologists. Technologists are going to come into your island, they're going to want to work here, they're digital nomads. This will provide infrastructure for that next wave of tourism, this quality tourists that will come into your borders, but also be able to contribute to you if you make it easy for them to find spaces to do so. Alternative education, I did have a look into the curriculum of the University of St. Martin to see, is there any digital transformation courses? Are there any sort of technology courses happening on the island? I didn't find any, software development boot camps, any sort of finishing schools, any sort of accelerative education practices. This is a major one that I think needs to happen, because if you want to excel, Silicon Valley has already proven there's a framework to accelerate the education of individuals to get them from not being a technologist to contributing to society as a technologist in 6 months. So these alternative education accelerators are a massive way to start to boost the technologists. Another major one here is diaspora engagement. So you've now created an enabling environment for people to contribute, places for them to collaborate and work and rub shoulders together. You have these educational frameworks that will enable local entrepreneurs. Who's going to teach here? Who's going to join these co-working spaces? Who's going to rub shoulders with these individuals locally so that y'all can all absorb through osmosis what has happened in these first world countries and bring that knowledge locally. Also, Caribbean diaspora just happen to be very successful people. Caribbean people, we drive ourselves to the top of organizations, and they always have this knack to give back. So as long as you're creating an enabling environment for them to give back, this diaspora engagement will be one of the most fruitful endeavors if you facilitate. And then the support for the creatives, this is essentially what you're exporting now. You're exporting the brains of St. Maarten. This is what's going to diversify your economy. There's no limit to the goods and services that is offered from the digital economy now. There's no sea border, there's no logistics towards exporting when it comes to the digital economy. And this support for creatives is essentially what is going to lead St. Maarten to potentially increase and move into one of the largest economies or opportunities globally, which is the area of consulting, which has about 30% of the entire world. So there's a choice. Either you remain on the same path, keep doing what you're doing. Where it goes, we don't know, but as Ms. Carty said, if we do nothing, I don't think we're going anywhere, and that's what I think. Or you can join the digital highway, start adopting these new solutions, these new mindsets, and then really drive St. Maarten forward. Take the risks, take the jumps, do it, but do it in a very strategic manner. And forgive the abstract images, but essentially it's not going to happen all at once. There's some missing pieces to this, but the creativity, the problem-solving abilities of people within St. Maarten, enabling them to solve these problems is what's going to take you there to a complete solution, a well-oiled flywheel that will take this country and put it at the forefront of innovation in the region. As I know you can do it because the people I've met on this island are just incredibly smart, and I would say that's probably the most impressive thing, is just the concentration of minds in St. Maarten and how passionate you are for solving problems is what gives me the belief that you all can do it. So thank you very much. I am insanely humbled, and I have the utmost privilege to be on stage with you all here today and to experience the warmth of the island. And my only hope is that I could join you in this journey in innovating as we make the Caribbean a much better place. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mark. Y'all hear that? We are incredibly, not just kind of smart, but incredibly smart. Do we have any questions in the room for Mark before we break? No? Okay. So we're going to take, yes.
Hi, Mark. Just for everyone in the room, my name is Fabi Fleetwood. I am from the National Recovery Program Bureau, and I was invited because we are investing in St. Maarten with a digital transformation type of project. So, Mark, thank you for your presentation. Also, Jennifer Carty, thanks for you for the presentation. My question is revolving of those 4 or 5 strategies that you mentioned. If I imagine you have experience working with and collaborating with different stakeholders, not only raising awareness about those strategies, but I also hope also implementing those strategies. how would you say would be a good way to start? Just to start.
A good way to start would be to find individuals who are already doing these things in certain capacities and enable them with capital grants that are aligned to help boost their initiatives. And within those individuals who are doing those things mentioned, ask them as well who they think should be included in this program. Reason being, I think that the people, the people who are solving these problems surround themselves with other people who are also passionately involved with, essentially solving the problems of this country. And I think that is just one of the most effective ways. Just go there, ask people, who else do you think should be here? And, obviously do a little bit of your own research, but the people who are doing it already are doing it probably with an outweighed passion than their bank account really allows them to actually, to actually implement the things that they want to do. And if you give them money, they will exceed your expectations.
I had a question as well, 2 questions actually. I'll start with the first one. In your presentation, you talked about obviously the curriculum and the need for obviously creating these minds in terms of developers, software developers, basically anyone that's technologically going to advance the country. To what extent is Trinidad doing that? To what extent, in your opinion, can you give us an insight as to that growth in that industry?
Yeah, definitely. So luckily, our government is also doing that, and then private sector as well. So our government started a program called the Ministry of Digital Transformations. It's essentially a boot camp and a program that they created an open source repo. So for all of you who don't know, if you're in technology, open source and open sharing of information is a cornerstone of technological development. So the IT sector is very against IP and holding information. It's about open sharing, as you can see within the blockchain ecosystem. So what they did is they issued an open source repo which allowed people to gather in communities and collaborate. And they had a program that incentivized youths to start to solve some of the more pressing problems within the ministry to help them digitize the solutions. And then they engaged local stakeholders, private sector, to help shape those solutions. It wasn't perfect, but it was a really good initiative because that's now boosted the amount of technologies that are within the midst of the government. And you're now seeing it start to rear its head because a lot of the digital solutions within the government are becoming enhanced and a lot more streamlined and automated. And from a private sector perspective, there's a few software development boot camps, and from those boot camps, technologists have gravitated outwards and now started working for the likes of Facebook and Google. So those enabling environments are really creating a pathway forward to better the country, but also better the individuals who are within the borders.
Awesome. And my second question regarding the process that you went through in order to obtain the license from the central bank in order to get your business off the ground. Could you give us some insight into that process? Like, how receptive was the central bank? Like, give us a little insight into that journey, what that looked like, and how you were able to hold out for so long.
Yeah. I'm gonna trauma dump on all of you. Sorry. No, but I'll just, in terms of initially, the central bank has been enabling, and I think the major problem with the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago is that it's just overcapacity. They're doing multiple things in multiple verticals, and because of that, if I'm not constantly knocking on their door, I'm not going to hear back from them in a few months. They're not very proactive with the seeking of license, but they also get a lot of applications as well. But in terms of the ongoing development, I made the initial application, which cost about $10,000 TT. So I had to take that initial step, and it was hard being an entrepreneur because margins are thin. Applied for the license, and then we started our initial consultations, and there was just a long laundry list of things to do to get to where I was today. And that process took 2 years. To give them the confidence to be able to give me a provisional license was delayed because of also myself and the communication. So I would get up to scratch in what I think would be a presentable amount of things for the central bank to allow them to say, okay, cool, he's met all of these requirements. We can now continue the conversation. And then that was an ongoing, ongoing back and forth for about 2 years of them giving us feedback, looking through our documentation, and then giving us a list of requirements which we then had to go and meet. And that would take us sometimes 3 months, sometimes 6 months, because we're doing this as a passion project and we're consulting on the side. So the consulting work would have to have taken up the time. So that's essentially what that process looked like. What I would like it to look like is there's a passionate entrepreneur who's doing something, and there's maybe 25% of the requirements that you need to fulfill before you get to experiment in market in little localized instances, so that you don't have to, because our central bank calls the sandbox post-license, so with that provisional period, whereas to me, a sandbox is pre-license, and that's where you experiment, and that's where not only you get a lot of valuable information as a company, but also the central bank in understanding how this fintech operates. So if the ideal situation was presented to me, that's how I would go about it. I left out a major caveat there, is that this license, I needed to have 500,000 TT, so just under 100,000 US guilder in the bank, which we had to muster from somewhere to then be able to operate as well. So the costs of innovating, especially in fintech, which I also want to state, fintech is, within this region, the technology that is going to boost all technology sectors. So when you actually realize that in Africa, 6 out of 7 tech billion, the unicorn companies, which are billion-dollar valuated companies, are all fintechs, you understand that within the Caribbean as well, in emerging markets, you as a regulator, policy provider, government, are actually holding in your hands the ability for this country to really strive and thrive forward. And you have to create that enabling environment, because it's almost like a survival mechanism for your entire tech sector to grow. So fintech is the ground basis to which a technology industry will thrive. And I think that is, now I guess it's in the regulator's hands to understand that you are in a position of responsibility for the growth of your entire economy, because tech is where the world is going, tech is where the world is diversifying into. And these fintech sandboxes are what's going to really help enable your local entrepreneurs to contribute towards society and not have them forfeit their zeal and vigor when they do get to a stage where they can actually go to market and implement the solution. Sorry, I added on a few things onto your question.
We have one last question before we take a short coffee break.
Yes, I just wanted to ask quickly. Oh yes, my name is Donovan Smith. I run an IT company that we service and supports retailers in St. Maarten, more than 200 retailers in the region. And of course, one of the big questions, or one of the big situations, is the situation that Jennifer posed in her presentation earlier. So I just wanted to ask, in Trinidad for you guys, I know you are a fintech entrepreneur, but what is the current situation? Where are you on the roadmap as a country? You know, St. Maarten is at the phase where we have these barriers to entry for retailers and small businesses receiving payments online. Have you guys in Trinidad already crossed that border? Are there still those barriers to entry? Do you have to pay deposits? Are there all those requirements? Have you passed that? If not, what are you guys doing to achieve that goal?
It's a really good question, actually. So what Trinidad is doing is they're trying to incentivize the financial sector to move forward and go to cashless. And they're doing that in ways in which regulatory policy allow. So we in the region, one of the first electronic money issuers, Central Bank is one of the first central banks to have an electronic money issuance license. So that is essentially to them fintech. And that's ways in which they're enabling the environment. The problem is that it's a lot like what Ms. Carty showed on stage, which is there's a lot of fees, there's a lot of hurdles to get to accessing these online payments. So I would say that's where we're at. It's still a little unattainable, but fintechs like myself aim to bridge that gap between them, a small business being able to access banking grade services and then resolve that into a local currency. And that's where I see that hurdle that we have to get over, which is a bit as well as what Ms. Carty alluded to, is that the fact that St. Maarten, you have your Dutch passports or your French passports allows you to get access to financial services as entrepreneurs, as I've heard in the room, that are way better than what you can get locally. You just have to understand that this platform is available to you. So you have that benefit that you could register for a foreign entity as an individual, not for the country, to get those online payments and then have them resolve into US or Euro dollars, and then be able to maybe get a virtual card on top of it. So you're essentially operating and gaining capital as a small business with a complete online solution, and you're doing so right here within St. Maarten. The problem is that St. Maarten isn't directly benefiting from that income. So that's where you have better financial access. However, it's not integrated into St. Maarten to benefit from it. So yeah, it's a bit of a different dynamic in Trinidad.
Okay, I see David really wanting to ask a question, but we have a panel discussion that we can get, no? Here, now? Okay, all right. Y'all want to be here till tomorrow, man? This is a hot topic.
You started.
I did.
Mark, thank you. And I want to give a compliment to Trinidad because you all have a fintech association. We just created one in Curacao, and we're going to help St. Maarten later too. I didn't hear anything about open banking, for example. I do hear about Europe. Everybody talks about the United States. How about open banking, one? And two, I do have a follow-up on what you just mentioned as one of the solutions. I'll rephrase that, and then you can answer me. On that, it's the same thing as in St. Maarten. Information. The same thing happens in Trinidad, same thing happens in Curacao. So after years of having a solution in St. Maarten, the information is out there. The same thing is happening in Trinidad. An example, and this has nothing to do with the FinTech Association. We try to help clients with certain unique softwares, and a bank in Trinidad says, but they are not, so the ones in Curacao are not licensed by the central bank in Trinidad, which is only a technology part, nothing about money. But that's knowledge and information. So how about the open banking? Have you spoken about it? Are you part of the FinTech Association? What?
Yeah, definitely. Actually, if you go on our website, for the wallet, the WAM wallet, we have published a paper on open banking and the necessity for it, definitely in the Caribbean. I believe one of the reasons why I didn't mention it here is just because we've knocked on all of the bank's doors and just have not gotten any sort of cooperation whatsoever. So I think as central banks, I wish there was a mandate for open banking that forced banks as main priority number one, that open banking be made available to all the fintechs within within our country or within the region. So yeah, I couldn't agree more that open banking is what would remove a lot of these hurdles. And of course, that ethos of collaboration within the banks as well with fintechs. If they would just realize what digital payments or fintechs could really do for their bottom line, rather than seeing us as frenemies or competition, but collaborators. So I couldn't agree more. Excited to hear what solution you have for the market as well.
Please give Mark a huge round of applause. So we're going to take because I'm going to give you European Standard Time here. That's my version of EST. We're going to take a 13-minute break. Yes, it's a strange time, but that means that we come back at 11:30 sharp so that we can start the panel discussion. There was a lot of talk about the bankers' role, the central bank's role, and so you're going to hear from them in this panel discussion. We're going to have a good time. So at 11:30, we will start the panel discussion. Please go ahead, stretch your legs, go to the restroom, get your coffee and tea, and we'll be back in 13 minutes. Now 12.